Well, hey there. Welcome to Artisan Made by Ladyhawke. I'm Ladyhawke. Welcome to my shop. Today we're going to make a Dreamcatcher. So what you're going to need is a hoop or ring, whatever you're going to make your Dreamcatcher out of. You're going to need some leather string. We used to call this leather thong, but apparently now thong is some sort of underwear, so I'm just going to call it leather string now. You're going to need some beads, or just one bead, depending on how you want your style. I have some Swarovski crystals, and I have some pearl beads, some chrome beads, some rainbow beads. You're going to need some cotton thread or some sinew or some fish line, depending on what you want to make your web out of. A small plastic knitting needle would be good as well. This is actually to sew your knitting or your crocheting together, so it has a large hole, which you'll be able to put your cotton through, or your fish line, whichever. This will be instrumental in making of the Dreamcatcher. You'll see what I mean in a little bit when we get to that part. You're going to need a glue gun. You're going to need a pair of scissors. So we started by gluing our leather to the seam of our ring. And then we just put a little spot of glue on it and we stick it there, and then we start wrapping it side by side. Do not overlap. And as we wrap it, we pull our extra string through the center of the hoop so that we keep untangling it as we are tangling it while we are wrapping it. That's pretty much the easiest way to explain it. You're going to find that I am going to talk a lot, because I think information is power, and the more information you have, the more power you have. And normally while I'm working, I would have some music on and I would be singing away, increasing my lung function, as they say. But the music will get added to the video later, so we don't want to interrupt my tutorial with music at the moment. So we're just going to keep wrapping side by side. Now I'm going to let this video run while we do this, because I know that this is it's interesting to learn. And normally I do workshops, but with COVID, our in-person workshops have been postponed. We haven't canceled them entirely, because we're hoping that we're going to get back on track. All our events have been canceled. So normally, in 2020, I would have gone and done various events. And while I'm on location, I usually handcraft something. So usually Dreamcatchers or the parachute cord survival bracelets, I handcraft those as well. And there'll be a video showing you how to do that. So we just keep wrapping side by side. Do not overlap them. Just keep wrapping side by side. Now I'm Ojibwe Indian, so I learned to make these from my grandmother and my mother. And of course I learned to bless them while I make them. And I want you to understand that when you're making a Dreamcatcher, you cannot be angry, you cannot be stressed, because every emotion that you feel goes into whatever it is that you're making, especially with the Dreamcatchers. So this is a good way to relax. I've had a lot of people come up to me on location and say, hey, I tried making a Dreamcatcher, But it didn't come out right. It got all tight and I just couldn't make it work. So I got all mad at it, and then it really looked really bad. And I tried to explain to him this: you cannot, the only emotions that you can have while handcrafting are love and bliss. Because otherwise you're just going to make a mess, make yourself angrier. And in the case of the Dreamcatcher, isn't going to work if it's full of negativity. So that's the whole thing there. And you shouldn't be getting stressed while you're handcrafting anyway. If you're making something, you should just be relaxing. If you have any stress or you're angry, then go take a walk. Then come back and start again. Or try to pick up where you left off, depending on what kind of mess you were making with what you were making. I know I have lots of information and lots of ideas on how to do things. And you may not want to hear it, and if that's the case, that's fine. But I'm here to teach people what I know. My kids already know, my grandkids already know, so the rest of y'all need to know. So here we are, we're getting closer to the end. And we're just wrapping away. And I'm going to heat my first part up a little bit with the side of my glue gun. It's kind of a clump of glue happening there, and we don't want that. Well, I'm going to jump out of camera here for a second and get a glue stick. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess because I'm used to just working away without a camera, without people needing to see what I'm doing. And when I'm on location at an event, people are generally standing there watching me, so I'm facing the crowd. And I generally have a larger space in which to be watched in. And everything's right there in front of me. Anyway, here in my little craft space, everything has to be organized in a way. Otherwise, I'll be walking all over my stuff trying to do something. Okay, so we're going to clip our leather right there. And then we're going to set that piece aside. We're going to heat this up a little bit because we don't want it to be a big clump. Alrighty. So now we're going to whip. Okay, so here's our ring. We've got glue strands all over. Yeah, just scared you there by popping right into the camera because I put my trash can behind it. That's how that worked. Alrighty, so we are going to take some cotton. Now, for the purpose of the demo here, this is embroidery thread. It works real well. I'm going to take a good portion. Okay, so we're going to make a slip knot. Actually, I guess I better do this a simpler way. Let's put it through the needle. As you can do this without a needle, but when you get to the end, you're going to want the needle on. But for the sake of this tutorial, let's just do it with a needle. Let me show you that way. I have to remember that not everyone will be doing it the same as I. And you do not have to follow exactly what I'm doing, as long as you can get to the same conclusion, however which way you're doing it. I know somehow that didn't quite make sense, did it? Okay, so let's make a slip knot. So go in through like you're going to make a knot, and then come back. Let me see if I'm showing you this way. So right there like that, like you're going to make a knot, and then grab the top of the knot, and let's see, do it this way. Come around and come back through here, and that's a slip knot, or a hangman's noose without the 13 wraps. So they call it a slip knot because now you can slip this around, and if you take it this way, you're going to tighten it right up. But you can slide that knot around. It will slip around, as the name. And then of course, get yourself all tangled up, because that's how we usually start. And we're going to start where we left off with the leather. I'm going to pull that up through and go through the slip knot. So now we're tightening that, but we have to tighten our slip knot now. So we're going to tighten that right there. Now we're going to do what they call a blanket stitch. So you're going to go in, you're going to go across, you're going to go up through there. Move over because you want them to be about an inch apart. And we're just going to keep doing that until we get around to the other half. Back to where we started. Now you can measure these if you like. I just eyeball them because I've been doing this so long that it's just second nature. But by all means, you could measure it. Doesn't have to be an inch exact. They just need to be roughly the same size. So hopefully you've gotten the idea and you're on your way to blanket stitching your ring in order to start your web. And you can fuss with it and get it all lined up however you like. That's fine. I gotta make sure that I'm not smacking the camera with my thread because it's pretty long. But I don't like to put knots in it, so I like to start with enough so that I don't have to put a knot. But you don't want to start with more than you can control either, because otherwise you're going to end up with a whole bunch of knots without wanting them, or without planning on it anyway. And now we are here where we began, and we're just going to go in there, same as if we're doing the blanket stitch. And we're going to slide it over and we're going to tie that off. So we're just going to go in there again and make a knot. So there we are. And now, just to get that out of our way, we're going to very carefully snip off the end of our original slip knot. So cut off that little tail. Okay, so here we are. We have a double thread going here. We want a single thread. We don't want that in the way. We don't want a knot in it. So what we're doing now is we're going to go down through there. We're down through each of our blanket stitch. And we're not going to worry about pulling on it too much. We're just going to go down in, come back up through the center and go down in the next one. Back up through the center and down in the next one. And we can pull her a little bit and down in the next one, back up through the center. And down and back up through the center. And we're going to slide her a little bit, pull on it a little, untangle. And as if you pull on it, of course, it's going to tangle. So we're going to untangle ourselves, which sometimes is a chore in itself. Alrighty. Okay, so here we are, the first part of our web. We're almost to the place where we started. So we're just going to keep going down, through, back up, and down through. And then we're going to tighten it. And we're just going to keep going down through and back up in the middle of each previous stitch. So one, and up, and down through the next one, and back up through the middle, and down, and back up. And I just send the head of the needle back up through so that the needle is ready to drop into the next one. But however you need to do it in order to get the same result, you just go right ahead and do it your way. This is what works best for me, and I'm not an authority on it. This is how I learned. This is how I'll teach you. And see, as you tighten it up, you get your web. Now what I like to do is let my needle dangle and untangle itself. It'll untangle the thread so that I don't get as many knots. And then I just shoot it into the next stitch, grab the needle in the middle, and just keep going. You see, we're coming together here. We don't want to pull it too tight because that will distort it. So, but we do want to get our thread. We have 2 strands here. We want to move it along. So I just grip it with my thumbnail against my finger and bring it down and then take the kink out of it. So we're going to come back up through and then we're ready to drop down again. So that stitch, back up, and then the next one. So you're going in down in each stitch, back up in the middle, down in each stitch. Easy peasy. And dangle your needle and let your thread untangle itself. So we're going to tighten it a little bit so we can see where our next stitch goes. And back up. And see this mess here? That's our stitch right there. And so anytime if you're confused as to where you're going next, you just look at the stitching. And let's untangle some more. And I forgot to mention that you should have some kind of clip. I have one of these, which is actually off one of the plastic pant hangers that you get at the store when you buy your pants. I just cut the ends off. And then that way, if you have to, you're in the middle of wrapping your ring and you have to, go do something, go to the loo, deal with the kids, answer the door for Amazon, whichever, you just put your clip on and that will hold it in place till you come back to it. Because there's often times that I have to go and deal with something else, and especially when I'm on location at my booth, I will put the clip on and take care of customers. Yeah, I really missed being on location in 2020. COVID came along and ruined all my plans, but you know what? You make new plans. But life happens and you get over it. But it's now 2021 and this is going to be the best year ever. I don't know that we're going to be having rib fests and street festivals and all those beautiful events that we're accustomed to going to. I just don't know. We hope and pray that everything will go back to somewhat normalcy, but I just don't know. We'll see what happens. So, but in the meantime, I have tutorial videos Etsy shop. I handcraft various items, including wreaths for all occasions. Deco mesh, grapevine. I even do some swags or some rails. I also handcraft the wooden welcome signs, or the door leaners as some call them. And assorted other signs. A lot of my fun is had in personalizing mugs, coffee mugs. And we're still webbing. Yeah, this is kind of new, doing a video in my craft room, or my craft area, because I don't actually have a specific craft room. I just have an area in which I craft. And normally I'm talking about my craft while I'm on location crafting. So this is kind of new. You guys can let me know in the comments what you think. Whether or not you would like for me to have Dreamcatcher kits available so that you can buy a kit. Whether we can put together an online workshop. So you will buy a kit, and you will get your information in order to be on the workshop. And then we will make a Dreamcatcher together, virtually. I'm still working out the process of how all that works. I'm not very techy. I'm certainly not a geek. So, but I do have a smartphone. Hoping it doesn't make me dumber having a smartphone. But that's just me. I keep forgetting to turn sideways while I'm working so that you can see what I'm doing. So I tighten it a little bit. I'm getting to the, you see how my web is going? Yours should be working its way somehow like that. If it's not, don't worry about it, because practice makes perfect. Now, back in the beginning, Dreamcatchers were made from willow switches. So you've seen a willow tree. A willow switch is a branch from a weeping willow. I used to laugh because I'm one of 10 kids, so we used to go out to the willow tree and select our switch to make a Dreamcatcher out of. That'd be the same tree where we go and select our switch to get our ass beat when we were in trouble. Of course, you tell the kids that today, they're like, what? What do you mean? And of course, I was born at a time when you had children to do the work. These days, I swear, kids don't even tie their shoes because they don't intend to walk anywhere. Right about now, I guess you can decide whether you want to hit that like button and subscribe, and hit that little bell next to the subscribe button so that you, anytime I have a bright idea or I decide to stand in front of the camera, you'll be notified. Or you can just hit the stop button and go on about your way. But if you want to see more of this, and of course as I go on, I'm going to get better at it, I'm sure. I don't think I'm too bad, although I'm standing here talking to myself. So, but of course I like to try to remember that there's a whole bunch of people out there watching this and listening to me, so that I'm not the old woman talking to myself. Like I said, this is all different because I'm used to talking to people in person, not on a video. So, but this is a whole different world now. And I'll get the hang of it. Pretty sure. So anyhow, here we are. We're getting close. And of course, as we get close, this is when you really want the needle, because we're getting tighter. We've tightened it up a bit and we're getting tighter. And it's getting harder to see where our next stitch is going. And we certainly wouldn't get our fingers in there with the thread. And on another video, I'll show you how to make one without the needle, just in case you want to get back to the basics in the beginning, because when I learned them, we didn't have a needle. Of course, we didn't have pretty leather like this either. This one's a nice deep purple. I don't know if you're how your monitor is showing the color, but this is I like to call it a plum purple. It's a deep purple, not quite a blue, a deep bluey purple, but it's a very deep purple. And as we get in here, it's going to get trickier. Like I said, to find the stitch which you're supposed to be in. And of course, you get closer, it's harder to see where your thread is. And you see this? We're getting, she's looking good. Okay. So now it's getting trickier because now we've tightened it up. We almost have no space to get the needle in. So now as you go, don't tighten it until we get to the end, because otherwise you will not be able to move your needle. You will not be able to fit your needle in. And that's where you're going to get all stressed and angry. So just relax. Don't have any tension on it. Don't have any tension in you. Inhale, exhale, repeat as necessary. So as I said, as you go along, you'll get better and better at it. I'll get better at making videos, and you'll get better at making dream catchers. It's a win-win, as far as I can see. Okay, now we're going to pull on it and see how close we come to being closed. You see that? So I